All right. So, welcome to today. We are training on why I am gaining weight. And so often I hear this from women. And so today we are going to answer those questions and we're going to tell you why it's happening and how to fix it. So, let me know. Welcome, everyone. Let me know where you're joining from. Let us know in the comments. Have a notebook and paper ready because I'm going to give you a lot of information today. These are going to be things that you can use in moving forward and refer back to. So also, you're probably going to have questions that come up as we're going along, something that you want to ask or you want to know. Put those in the comments. I will definitely come back to those after the presentation and answer those for you, or send me a message or tell me whatever you want to ask your questions. I want you to have all the answers you have questions to. So post those down below if you want. So, um, over 13 years, I have been helping women. And so when I say I see you and I hear you, I can tell you I've been hearing this for 13 years. And unfortunately, it's a season in life. And I just want you to know that you are not alone. You are not crazy. These are normal changes that are happening, but they don't have to be common symptoms that we're having. And so those don't have to be normal. And that's what we're here to fix. And one of those is weight gain. That's a big deal. So let me go back just a moment here. So if you haven't met me yet, my name is April Raynard. I'm a certified holistic life and health coach, and I help Christian women over 35 with their perimenopause symptoms. And we kick those to the curb for good. So whatever you have going on with you, reach out to me because I am here to help you. And we are, you know, it's a season. It is a season in life, and it is not fun. And so, if you notice those changes and you've been trying things, maybe you got a gym membership because you were determined you were going to get into shape, right? Because your body's like doing all this weird stuff and gaining weight here and there, and your pants won't zip, and your shirt won't fit anymore. And so all these things are happening. And so you decided, okay, I'm joining the gym. Well, then what happens? You end up not going, you get busy, or you go and you're just frustrated because you're putting in all this time and effort and nothing is happening. So you're throwing money away for gym memberships. You're spending time online. You're researching and looking for answers, and the answers you get coming up are contradicting each other, and you're like, what is going on, right? And so you need some clarity around this. Maybe you've resorted to side effects from medications because you're just willing to put up with that because you're just trying to find an answer. You spend hours in the doctor's office, and maybe they're listening to you, maybe they're not. Maybe they're telling you you're fine, your labs are all in range, you're good to go. You don't feel fine, do you? There's things happening. And a lot of these medications may help for a short time or help a little bit, but then they end up just causing side effects and really not solving the root problem, right? Or how about the promises of quick fixes? We hear that all the time. Take this or drink that and you'll lose 30 pounds. And so we have all these quick fix promises, or somebody will say, oh, well, I lost 50 pounds doing this. And so we tend to get sucked into those things, and we often are eating salads every day. You're looking at your meal plans and you're going, that's another salad today. And so it doesn't have to be this way. And so I just want to encourage you that if you're still stuck in this and you're doing all these things, there is a better way, and I'm here to help you find that better way. So what is really happening during perimenopause? Why are things not working anymore? Things that used to work fine aren't working anymore. So perimenopause isn't just about hot flashes and mood swings, although those are a huge part of it, right? We're going to start by understanding that this is a beautiful, complex transition that your body is moving through. And so because it's not just about those things, it's actually a profound hormonal reorganization, we'll say, right? That affects nearly every system in your body. And so during perimenopause and menopause, um, estrogen doesn't regulate like it did before, right? And so estrogen influences um, how fat is stored, how how your mood, right? Estrogen affects our mood. It also influences where stored fat, where the fat stores in your body. And so as that declines, your body tends to redistribute the fat, which is why you can go from your hips to your thighs or your abdomen, and you're like, what is going on? Like, the pants I could wear a year ago don't fit anymore. I can't button them, or I can't get them up over my hips. Like, what's going on here? And it's because it's redistributing in your fat storages. And it's normal. It happens, but we can help that. So progesterone changes, it changes the balance between estrogen and progesterone. And so, we have to have this perfect harmony, right? And so, um, whenever progesterone shifts, it can contribute to bloating and water retention, and especially around the midsection you'll notice some bloating. And so these are again our normal signs, right, or common signs, but we that's a sign to us that we need to work on that. There's something that we need to do there. So then we have testosterone fluctuations. So many women don't realize that testosterone plays a role in maintaining our muscle mass. And so as those testosterone levels change, so that's whenever we start experiencing the muscle loss, which also then slows our metabolism and can contribute to increased abdominal. And so that's why testosterone in women is important. You think about testosterone, you think, oh, that's a man thing, right? And so, but it's not. It is actually affects a woman as well. And so the next thing is cortisol sensitivity. So your body becomes more sensitive to cortisol, and which is your stress hormone, right? And so during perimenopause, the cortisol levels direct fat storage right to the belly. And so, unfortunately, if you are struggling with weight around the midsection, we need to be looking at your cortisol sensitivity. Okay. And then the last one is insulin resistance. So, this is where hormonal changes can affect how your body processes sugar. And so, um, increased insulin resistance, leading to increased insulin resistance. And so, and you guessed it, it promotes more belly fat. And so you've got a combination here of 5 different things that whenever they get out of balance, they are contributing to our weight, and especially at the midsection. So think of perimenopause as your body's way of reorganizing its priorities, right? And so I just want you to know that you're not broken and you haven't failed, right? You probably think, I keep gaining this weight, so it's something I'm doing wrong, or I'm eating wrong, or, I'm not getting enough exercise. We start eating ourselves up, right? You haven't failed. It's simply your body's way of adjusting to a new hormonal landscape. And so there is a little bit of transition that has to happen. And so that's where we can help you walk through that a little bit easier, get things back on track faster, and you don't spend years like I did in this hormonal mess. And so there is hope. So why is menopausal belly fat different? Why is it, when we're younger, we would gain weight, right? And sometimes it would be in the belly, but we could get rid of it, right? And we could get ourselves back into shape. And so it is definitely different these days. So what used to work to mix that bloat or that muffin top, when we would zip our jeans up and we're like, well, I need to cut back a little bit, because it's getting a little tight. Those things don't work anymore. So why is that? That's what we're going to find out. So that stubborn midlife belly isn't just about appearance. It is actually representing 2 different types of fat. And so it's definitely a different type of fat that you may have experienced in your younger years. And so we're going to talk about those two main types now. So the first one is your subcutaneous fat. So that is the soft, pinchable fat that lives just under the skin. And so it, it's really not um, from a health perspective, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? And so it's just kind of there. And that's what kind of goes up and down when you're younger, and and it's easier to lose, right? Because if you get too much of it, you can usually, make some changes and it goes down. And so the part that's a little bit trickier is the visceral fat. And so this is the deeper belly fat that surrounds your organs. And you can definitely have this when you're younger too, but it is more common usually during and after menopause. So definitely through the perimenopause years and then on into menopause, that's when this one shows up and it can be ugly. So unlike the other fat, visceral fat is metabolically active, and it's almost like an organ itself, and which is crazy, right? But that's what happens. It starts doing all things that and why we get in such a mess, right? And so it produces the compounds and the hormones that affect everything from your heart health to your mood to your energy, all of it. But there is good news. If you can understand the distinction between the two is so important because visceral fat responds differently to strategies than your regular fat, your subcutaneous fat does. So the good news is visceral fat actually is more responsive to the right kind of lifestyle changes, especially during the perimenopause, even into menopause years. If we can, just revamp our lifestyle just a little bit and start thinking about things differently and doing things differently, you can turn this around very easily. So, why conventional weight loss approaches often fail during these perimenopause and menopause years? So, why is that? Okay, so if you have tried cutting calories drastically or pushing yourself through intense workouts and just not seeing the results, right? It's just you're frustrated, like you're doing all the right things. Well, let me tell you, there is a good reason why this is happening because the conventional approaches often don't address the unique hormonal environment of perimenopause and even into menopause. And so you could be, doing CrossFit, doing your ropes, like really getting, doing all the right things, and it's just not working. So here's why traditional approaches often fall short. And it can definitely be extreme calorie restriction. Um, while this may have worked, in your 20s and 30s, severe calorie cutting during menopause and during perimenopause as well can actually increase stress hormones. It can slow your metabolism. It can promote muscle loss. And so all of these things also encourage belly fat. So we need to be paying attention to that. And calorie restriction is not the answer. It may work for a short time, but then there's going to be repercussions of that. So just be cautious. Over exercising. This is something else I see a lot of women do too. They start going for the high intensity exercise without adequate recovery, and that can spike cortisol levels, which we just talked about, why cortisol levels have to be maintained, right, and kept at a good level. So especially in the perimenopause body that's already navigating hormonal fluctuations, we don't want to be adding stress of over exercising because that just doesn't work. And so the next thing is ignoring stress, which we all have stress in our lives. We're, just our society in general, like we live with daily stress, right? And so that's why many conventional approaches do not work in this day and age because they're only focusing on diet and exercise, and they're not addressing the stress component. And so stress management is absolutely critical during this stage in life. So let's make that a priority, okay? And often a one size fits all thinking is is another big problem. Okay. And so your perimenopause and menopausal body has a unique fingerprint. And so, it has its own specific needs and responses. And so you are an individual. You were designed and created as yourself. There's no one else like you, right? And so oftentimes we get a one size fits all thinking, and that's why we're frustrated. So some holistic strategies for perimenopause belly fat. So let's explore. Let's find some effective and some sustainable approaches for addressing the perimenopause belly fat. Okay. So we want to find one and find ones, right? Because there may be more than one combination that works for you, that honors your body's wisdom and works with your changing hormones. So some nutrition approaches that honor your hormones. So, um, eating for menopause is less about restriction and more about nourishment. And so here's how it works. You have protein timing and quality. So um, with this, you want to aim for about 30 grams of protein, 25 to 30 usually of grams of protein at each meal. And it is especially important that we get that at breakfast. That needs to be a priority. If you don't get it the rest of the day, we'll work on that, right? But a non-negotiable is breakfast. And it really needs to be within an hour of waking up. And that's across the board, no matter what type of solution is best for you. This seems to be pretty consistent across the board for most women. And so, which, we don't usually do a one size fits all thinking, right? But that is one of those small little details that could be considered that. And so this helps maintain precious muscle mass. It stabilizes your blood sugar, you want to focus on clean protein sources like pasture raised eggs, wild caught fish. And so if you've been around me much at all, you already know, whoops, I skipped the slide here. You already know, you heard all of this from me, right? I definitely want you getting clean sources. We want your grass-fed meats, obviously, and you can do some plant-based options, but just really caution with those. A lot of those are soy-based, right? Which can be a problem. And so we try to avoid soy as much as we can. Okay, so the other thing is smart carbohydrate choices. So we get, of course, again, society has kind of warped our thinking, right, on some of this stuff, but your body still needs carbs. Even at this stage in life, you still need carbs. And the type and timing is what matters more now. And so focusing on fiber-rich, complex carbohydrates like sweet potatoes, quinoa, berries, apples, those healthier carbs are what we're looking for, those complex carbs. So these foods can actually help insulin levels and, feed your gut microbiome, which all these things play such a critical role in hormone balance. And so oftentimes we don't put enough emphasis on smart carbohydrate choices. Okay. And so then we have strategic fat consumption. So include those healthy fats with each meal to support hormone production and reduce inflammation. So when I'm talking about fats, I'm talking about avocados and olive oil and nuts and seeds and fatty fish. Those all deserve a place on your plate. And so make those a priority. Your next one is phytoestrogen-rich foods. So those, certain plant foods contain compounds that can help ease the declining of estrogen, but, so just be smart about these, right? And so if you have labs done and your estrogen is really high, these are going to be things that you're going to want to avoid, right? But if your estrogen is low and you're trying to balance that out, you can definitely use these foods to do, like foods like flaxseed and sesame seeds, but just make sure that they're organic and minimally processed chickpeas, dried fruits like apricots and dates. Dates are wonderful. They're, high in fiber and they help with digestion and all that too. So, eating rhythm. So this is kind of maybe a new concept for you, maybe not, but consider condensing your eating window. So some might know this better as intermittent fasting, right? And so it's a gentle form of intermittent fasting. And so it's like eating for maybe 8 or 10 hours a day instead of, the 16 hours that you're up or whatever. And so this approach may help improve sensitivity and reduce the visceral fat. And so that's what we're after, right? We're trying to reduce that visceral fat. So, however, it's definitely not right for everyone. And so listen to your body. And if this, if some intermittent fasting is not for you, then that's okay. But if it is, that can be a very useful tool. Now, so mindful alcohol consumption. I always add this one in because I find, especially perimenopause women, they kind of tend to have a glass of wine at dinner or in the evenings, and so what happens is that glass turns into a bottle, and then all of a sudden we've got a lot of alcohol consumption, and so just being mindful of that and trying to I'm not going to tell you you can't have it, right? I'm just telling you that we need to keep tabs on it, and here's why: because alcohol affects perimenopause women differently, and so it's often disrupting our sleep, increasing our hot flashes, things that we wouldn't even think of, right? That we're like, what does that have to do with alcohol? And so it has a lot to do with it. And so it also heads straight to the liver, which is already working overtime, right? And trying to process all the changing hormones. And that's why your liver needs such love and such support during this perimenopause and menopausal time. So just consider limiting the alcohol and choosing lower sugar options. If you are going to partake, then just try and choose those lower sugar options. Don't go for, the artificial sugars, because that presents a whole nother problem, right? So just try to keep it clean. All right. So movement that supports your changing body. So I promise all of my women that I work with, I'm not going to tell you you have to exercise because I don't enjoy it, and I know a lot of other people don't too. But there are little things that we can do that are crucial to our success. And so exercise still remains crucial, right? But I'm not going to tell you you have to do that, high intensity, high cardio, all the stuff that just exhausts you. It's the type and intensity and recovery that we need to shift our thinking in. And so, oftentimes I will, even just suggest the walking or the stretching, that kind of thing. And so let's jump in. So while exercise remains, right, crucial, we want to think about one of them as strength training. So this is really, strength training needs to be a non-negotiable for you. And so you can you don't have to have a gym membership for this. You can do this at home. You can use your own body weight. You can use hand weights, that type of thing. That's what I'm talking about when I say strength training. And so, but this needs to be done while we are in the perimenopause and menopause years. Aim for like 2 or 3 sessions a week. Really focusing on those major muscle groups. And so, like I said before, you don't need to, you don't need to have a gym membership and lift really heavy. Just your own body weight exercises or lighter weights can be a great form. It can make a huge difference in maintaining muscle mass and metabolic health. Now, walking. So let's not underestimate the power of a brisk walk. Even if it's like, only 30-minute walk, it's okay. That is actually excellent. And so walking after meals in particular can be very effective for maintaining blood sugar and reducing stress hormones. So get that walk in, even if it's to the mailbox and back, like make it a brisk walk and get some time in. And so if you're just getting started with that, start with small amounts. Maybe just walk for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and then just work your way up. I had a lady the other day who started at 5 minutes and now she's up to an hour or more. And so it will happen. You will increase your stamina and it'll be amazing for you. So stretching and mobility work. So these practices can help maintain flexibility, reduce stress, and improve body awareness. And so stretching can be especially beneficial during this time of transition between these years. I just can't stress it enough that, just taking time to even just stretch, that is super important because I know we're all busy, but that's something you can do at home and you can do it very effectively. So let me switch this real fast here. Okay, so strategic cardio. So what is that, right? And so those are short bursts of high intensity movement followed by recovery periods such as interval walking or cycling. The cycling is another excellent way, but it tends to be more effective than the long, steady, cardio sessions that we maybe did when we were younger, right? That doesn't work as well for us now. And so it just causes a lot of stress on the body that we don't need. So let's be sure that if we're doing it, we're taking time to recover as well. So make those a little shorter spurts. Okay, so belly specific movements. So exercises that target that deep core muscle can actually help improve posture. It can provide better support for your internal organs, focusing on exercise that engage the transverse abdominis. And so, which is basically like your internal corset muscle. And so just making sure that we are paying attention to those and doing those specific exercises can be very beneficial too. All right, so stress management. So this is actually your secret weapon for belly fat. And so during perimenopause and menopause, stress management isn't a luxury, right? It is an essential medicine. Um, and that's the one question I usually ask people is, what's your stress level like? And they look at me like I'm crazy because your doctors just sometimes aren't asking these questions, right? Because they don't really make the connection that our lives are stressful sometimes, and sometimes we live it daily. And so we need to be discovering coping skills and things that will help us get through this and lower our stress levels. So let's talk about some of those. So deliberate relaxation. So practicing deep breathing, there's stretching, right? You can even, as you're relaxing, just do some stretching. So those really counteract the stress response in the body. And so that in turn helps lower the belly fat because we are reducing the stress in the body. And so very important to do there. So sleep, prior, just prioritize your sleep, please. It is super important, and I am just as guilty. Believe me, ladies, I am. We are all busy and we all have the same number of hours a day. So I get it. There's a lot to get done, right? And everybody needs something, and we are trying to keep up, right? And so, but I just encourage you to make sleep a priority and quality sleep at that, right? And so when we get that, our body balances hormones and um, processes stress and everything's so much better. And so we can create a consistent sleep routine. We can keep our bedrooms cool, especially important during the night sweats, right? And so sorry to your husbands that are going to have a cold bedroom for a while, but it's okay. You'll eventually warm back up, or they'll eventually warm back up, after the air kicks off. But we definitely have to have a cooler bedroom at night when we're sleeping. And so that just helps promote that deeper sleep. And so, but then also consider, supplements like magnesium glycinate if needed to help you rest better. A lot of times that's a good one. There's definitely all kinds of forms of magnesium. And if you've been around me very much at all, you know that we've had those conversations that there's definitely some that I don't like for sure. And for our perimenopause and menopause years, we need to be using magnesium glycinate for sure. So the next one is HRV training. So if you haven't heard of this one, it's not like, as well known, right? But basically what that is heart rate variability. And so it's using an app or wearing a device where you can actually see how well your body is recovering. And so whenever we have times of stress and, we can use this as a tool, right? And help us guide our choices whenever it comes to activity. And so, yeah, just a good thing to know there. And so, spending time in nature. How many of us do this enough? I know I don't. Spending time outdoors, it is shown to lower cortisol levels and improve mood. So who doesn't want that, right? And so both are crucial for managing menopausal and perimenopausal symptoms. So saying no, this is a hard one, right? How often do we say yes and then we're like, oh, if we do that? So saying no, setting those boundaries around your time and your energy, it isn't selfish. Sometimes we just have to do that. And so it's necessary, especially during during the perimenopause years when your energy reserves might fluctuate. Some days you have more energy than others. And so we just have to make adjustments, okay? And saying no, setting those boundaries is a good place to start. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is targeted supplements worth considering. Now, doesn't mean you need to run out and buy these, and I don't suggest you do that, right? Because you need to make sure that it's a need for your body. But we usually always go to food first. So that's my approach. And but oftentimes there is a need for supplementing, and so that's why I wanted to talk about that just for a minute. Certain supplements can provide additional support. So we've already talked about magnesium, right? So it supports sleep and muscle function and mood regulation and all the fun things, right, that are crucial during perimenopause. And so keep that one in mind for sure. It needs to be magnesium glycinate for sure. Now, the next one is vitamin D3. And so, first of all, you always want to make sure that it has D3 with K2, right? We want to make sure that that is together because that will help. I mean, vitamin D is a hormone, right? And so we want to make sure that we're not throwing something else out of whack, right? And so K2 helps with absorption with that. Vitamin D3 is essential for bone health, and it may actually play a huge role in controlling inflammation, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. Omega-3 fatty acids help reduce inflammation and also supports brain health. And so a lot of times during this time, we start having, you know, brain fog or memory issues, those types of things start happening to us. And so get those omega-3. It is super important. And in fact, in other trainings, we'll get a little deeper on some of that. But your omega-3 ratio to the other omegas is crazy. Like it's almost 3 to 1. And so you really want to make sure that because as a society, we're not eating enough wild caught clean fish. And so we're just not getting those omega-3s like we need to get. So adaptogens. So this, is something to consider, right? Some herbs like rhodiola, ashwagandha, holy basil, those are just a few examples. They may help help the body adapt to stress better and kind of balance hormones. So definitely, something to think about if you're open to that. And then we have my favorite, B complex vitamins. So I am a big B vitamin fan now. I know some people are not, but I can't tell you what a difference it can make in your energy and your stress response. It's huge. It is absolutely huge for energy production. If you're getting really tired in the afternoons and you're in this menopausal years, just give it a try. I can tell you it's going to help change things. Now, I did put a note down here as a disclaimer for myself and what we're doing here today. Always check with your physician or your provider or whoever you see, before making any changes, right? Because, as a disclaimer, we do not prevent or treat, or diagnose. Like we're not doing any of that here. We are giving you information to help self kind of guide yourself into um, feeling better, because a lot of times we're getting left out of, the doctor's office. We're leaving there without answers, or we're leaving there with prescription medications that we maybe don't want, or not interested in. And so, this is just giving you some tools to learn what we can do for ourselves. So let's talk about tracking progress beyond the scale. So we no longer can look at the scale. I mean, you can still look at the scale, but it's not going to be reflective of what's really happening. The weight that you weighed, back when you were in your 20s and 30s, early 30s, can be the same weight that you weigh now, but things look different. Your clothes fit different. You feel different. You move different. Like, it's just not the same. And so keep that in mind and don't get tied to the scales, because they're no longer our reference points. And so it's just important that, as we're going through these years, right? And especially during the perimenopause, one of the most important shifts is changing how we measure success. So the scale might not accurately reflect the positive changes that are happening in your body. So I want you to consider tracking in other ways. And I'm going to give you some examples here. So I would like for you to track how your clothes fit. Okay, so think about this a little bit differently than what the scales do. Let's just think about how our clothes fit. Your energy levels throughout the day. Are they better? Are they worse? Like, let's measure those things. Your sleep quality, let's measure that, right? If there's something going on there, let's make some adjustments, because those are going to make big changes. We've already learned about that, right? Mood stability. So how is your mood? Do you feel better? Are you as moody as you were before? Physical strength gains. So you can tell whenever you've, been working out in the gym and maybe lifting some weights, or, doing body exercises where you're using your own body weight. You can tell a physical difference. Maybe when you squat down to grab that pot out of the bottom of the cabinet, and you stand back up, you're like, oh, that was easier than it used to be. You just start noticing those things. Those are the kinds of things that we want to start measuring by. And then we have metabolic health markers. So blood sugar and inflammation. Maybe if you're open to that, even photos of, when you started and then up to now, like the changes. And so definitely, we want to make sure that they're supportive rather than discouraging, right? So we don't want to get into that, but just kind of keep that in mind, that it maybe could help us see how far we've come. And so measure by those things. Okay. Okay, so many women find that the waist circumference, measured at the narrowest part of the waist, is way more useful metric than the scales, right, during this transition. And so get your measuring tape. They're super cheap. Sometimes they come free with stuff. Grab a hold of that. Start, start from today if you want. Measure that before you implement some of these things that we've talked about today. Measure that and watch that number go down, because that is going to be a bigger measurement for you than the scales, because we are after that belly fat. That's what we're after, because it's messing with our hormones. And so we want to get that down. And so this is a great way to keep track of that. So honoring your individual journey. So you've already heard me say that before. We are all individually designed. We have had factors making adjustments to normal, right? It could be genetics, it could be lifestyle, it can be environmental exposures. We are all uniquely designed, and we've had unique experiences in our life. And so that changes. That's why we all can't do the same thing, and why one thing doesn't work for everyone. And so this is why we are kind of looking things a little bit differently here. This is why working with professionals who understand the unique challenges that we go through during this time. And so it just can just be so valuable. And I just want to encourage you that, yeah, I didn't list them all on the slide because there wasn't enough room, but I'm going to tell you these things are important. And so I would just highly encourage you to start thinking about connecting with a menopause specialized healthcare provider. Now, they don't actually have to have that title, but just interview them, like interview some providers and find out their experiences with menopause, perimenopause, and menopause. Have they been through it? Have they helped a lot of patients with it? What's their success rate? Those types of things. Find a good nutritionist that is familiar with hormonal transitions because, nutrition is huge. And so if we can find some support that way, that is wonderful. Maybe a trainer who's experienced in working with perimenopause, menopause women. Maybe they've had lots of good success. Maybe they have a specific class designed for this, season in life. That's a great alternative to just go into a gym. And then, of course, a health coach. A health coach can do a lot of these things that are listed here, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them. So what we do is we help navigate all of these lifestyle changes. So we know what needs to happen. And so usually a health and a life coach can help walk you through some of that very gently and get those results that you're looking for and the accountability. And so I just want you to know I am here for you. It is time to say yes to yourself and start investing in your health and doing what you need to do to feel better and to feel better quickly. We've got our life to live, right? And so the hormonal symphony. So understanding your changing biochemistry. Now, I'm not going to get really deep into a lot of this. I just wanted to touch on it because I want you to see how important it is, because I want you to see the inflammation connection. And so let's make sure I don't get too in depth here, right? But chronic low grade inflammation. So, we have times in our life where we are extremely inflamed and, it's obvious, but this in particular that I'm talking about is kind of your low grade inflammation where you look fine on the outside, but things are going on the inside. Okay. And so it definitely becomes more common during the perimenopause, menopause years, and it creates this vicious cycle with belly fat. And so that's what we have found, that if we can recognize and work against, right, this low grade continuing, that we can make some real changes, especially with belly fat. So let me go down here. So some things that definitely play a role is hormonal changes. So as we have hormonal changes, it increases inflammation, and inflammation promotes insulin resistance. And so then insulin resistance leads to more belly fat, which we kind of talked about already, right? And so belly fat then produces the compounds that we've been talking about. And so these compounds create more inflammation. And so do you see kind of the vicious cycle that we get into? And then, your insulin resistance and all that causes hormonal changes. And we just start that process all over again. So how do we fix this, right? So we want to break this cycle. And the key to managing those perimenopause and menopause belly fat, is these anti-inflammatory strategies. So I'm going to give you a few examples. Definitely is not an exhaustive list. This will get you started. Just consuming the omega-3s. We talked about those earlier, right? Getting your those essential fatty acids. Those are so important. It's good for brain health and also for hormones. But reducing your sugar intake. We haven't touched on that a lot, but I can assure you, sugar intake can make things worse. We feel like it consoles us in the moment, right? It gives us some relief, temporarily, but it's actually making the problem worse. So try to reduce your sugar intake. Managing stress. Again, we've talked about that a lot today. That is huge. And then getting adequate sleep. Those are crucial to your success. And so you taking notes, be sure you're writing those things down. All right, so some hormone testing worth considering. So with belly fat and with just increased fat overall, but definitely in the midsection. There are a few particular tests that you can definitely worth considering. Okay. I just wanted to touch on those so you were aware that they are available. And so, but if you're struggling despite the lifestyle changes, consider these comprehensive tests. So, there's one called a Dutch test, and it provides detailed information about your hormones, and so adrenal hormones and their metabolites. And so it's usually done with a urine test at home. And so, over 2 days time usually. And the next one is insulin and glucose testing. So fasting insulin, glucose, A1C, those all can reveal insulin resistance before maybe full onset diabetes develops. And so that's a blood test that you do while you're fasting, pretty simple. And a lot of you may have already done that. A comprehensive thyroid panel. Now, this goes beyond just a TSH, because if you have your TSH checked, your doctor probably checks that every year or every couple of years. I want you to consider asking for a panel, asking for a little deeper look at this, because sometimes there can be some underlying things that we can address and help resolve some of these other perimenopause symptoms that we're dealing with. So consider testing for free T3, free T4, reverse T3, and definitely your thyroid antibodies. Those are all done with the blood test. You can do them all at the same time and get those out of the way and know what's going on. So inflammatory markers. So you can use a high sensitive C-reactive protein. Those, they can definitely reveal the hidden inflammation. Again, it's done by a blood test. They can do these at the same time, even, if you ask for them at the same time, or if your doctor's willing to do those at the same time. Now, a couple tests that I do personally is the biofeedback scan. It scans 198 points in the body. It's checking all organs, glands, and systems, looking for stressors and revealing underlying causes to the health challenges that you're dealing with. It's done remotely. So it can be very beneficial. So consider a biofeedback scan. Another test that I'm becoming a lot more happy with, I guess. They've really improved this so much that now I feel like it's a very valuable test that can tell us a lot of information. And so I actually found a lab in the US that will test the hair without washing it first. And so washing it at the lab. And so a lot of times most of the labs in the US, all but I think two, are still washing hair using tap water. And so I'm like, are you serious? Like, you're wondering why your tests are skewed. This is why. Let's do better. And so, like I said, I found a lab that will do that, and they don't wash the hair before they test it, so we actually have accurate results. And so, anyways, it's called HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis. And so it's a hair sample from the nape of the neck. And you just use you collect about a teaspoon worth, well, I'd say a tablespoon if you were kind of measuring it out. And you're going to put that in an envelope. You're going to ship that off in about 3 or 4 weeks. So get your results back. And these results really are eye-opening, because they show a lot of deficiencies in minerals and adrenal health and just so much more. And so it's easy. It's just done with a hair sample. And so it can be very, very helpful in our decision making. And so just understanding your unique hormonal landscape empowers you to make targeted choices rather than just generic advice that you're just hopping around from one thing to the other that doesn't work, right? I just want you to remember that knowledge is power, especially during this transition. And so that's why I'm here today. That's why I'm helping you and giving you all the tools that you need to be successful. So remember that these patterns often overlap and they change throughout even your menopausal journey. So, you may still be in the perimenopause journey, and it's no different. It's going to be, it can be different from year to year, right? Perimenopause can last anywhere from 4 years to 12 years or more. And so, yeah, it's not going to be the same all the way through. And so regular check-ins with your body and perhaps periodic testing can just help adjust things when we need it. And then, just make your approach different according to your needs. And so that's super important because like I said, it's going to change. We all have genetics playing a factor and all the things, right? Okay, so moving forward, your perimenopause transition plan. So now we're going to get to the fun part. Okay, are you ready to take action? Here we go. All right, so here's how we're going to create a personalized approach. So we're going to start with acceptance. And this is where you just acknowledge where you are right now without judgment, without saying, oh, if I hadn't have done this, or if I had just done this, or no, we're just going to accept where we are and we're going to move forward. Okay, so let's start there. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to choose one area to focus on. Perhaps it's sleep, perhaps it's stress management, or maybe you just need to start adding protein to your breakfast. Whatever that is, let's start there. Okay, so decide what that is for you. Write that down. And then we are going to implement small, consistent changes. So I can tell you sustainability trumps perfection every single time. Okay, I don't care about perfection. I don't care about you being perfect. I have women all the time text me and say, "Oh, I screwed up. I did this. I went to a birthday party and I ended up eating the cake." It's okay. It's all right. We are not going to be perfect. Where it is important is that we regroup and we get back on the wagon and we start fresh again, right? And so I always tell people, if you have a win, if one meal is on target, on track, you've hit all of your goals, that is a win. Okay. Even if the rest of the day goes to pot, you still had a win at breakfast. And so keep that in mind, keep yourself encouraged. You're not going to be perfect and it's okay. All right. So track what works for your body. So that's really important because we need to be keeping notes on how different foods affect us, how movements, how do we feel the next day? Like, is that a good thing? Do we want to keep doing that? Stress management techniques. What worked best for you? Some people sitting in a bubble bath did not help their stress level at all. They needed to go for a walk or they needed to do some kind of physical exercise, whoever. We all have different ways, right? And so kind of keep track of that, keep journaling. Journaling is so important because you can look back and reflect and kind of see how far you've come and then what changes worked well and what didn't. And just be patient, okay? Hormonal balancing takes time and sometimes it can take a lot of time. It can take months rather than weeks. And I know it's frustrating, but if you'll hang in there and you'll work with, whoever you're working with, whether it's me or someone else, trust the process and trust that we know what we're doing and we are going to get you where you want to be. Okay. And then we want to celebrate those non-scale victories. This is huge because again, that scale is not going to be reflective of what's really happening. So recognize improvements and recognize improvements in your energy and your mood and how you feel in your body. Are you feeling more like yourself? Build community. Now this is what I probably notice most about women that we are lacking, especially in our world today. We need to be connecting with other women regularly. And so to help us navigate this, this season in life, this process that we're going through, this transition, we need community and community is so important. And so anytime I am doing a group coaching or, working with a group of women, I make sure that we have a community base. We have a platform that we can go to. We can support each other. We can ask questions. We can, just be in community together because a lot of times we feel very alone and very isolated. And you think I'm the only one that has this problem. And it may be bizarre, it may be strange, but I can guarantee you there's probably somebody else out there that's having the same thing. And so, and they're probably looking for support and accountability and all of the fun things that we have when we are in community with women. And so keep that in mind. It is important. And I encourage you to do that and to connect with me, and we will get you involved in a good community of women. Okay. So now we're going to jump into the practical action plan. So we've tried plan A, we've tried doing things how we used to do them, right? We've done plan B, we've used, our neighbors or our best friend's plan. That didn't work. So now we're on to plan C. And I can tell you, plan C is going to work. So let's get practical. Here are specific actions for the most common challenges women face during perimenopause transition. So I want you to find the situation that resonates the most with you and try the targeted solutions that I'm going to recommend for you. Okay. Now, if you don't fall under these categories, don't fret. There's one at the end that's for everyone. So hang in there. All right. So if you are one of those people that you are struggling with stubborn belly fat, despite eating healthy, your diet is pristine, you are doing all the right things, but you cannot get rid of this belly fat for anything. Here's your plan. This is the action plan I want you to try. I want you to assess your protein intake. I want you to track your food for 3 days to ensure that you're getting at least 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. That's crazy, right? This is seriously where you need to be. And you want about 100 to 120 grams daily is what most women need. So you can play it by ear and see, but somewhere around that range is probably going to be a great place for you. And so the next thing I want you to do is time your carbohydrates strategically. Consume most of your carbs around your active times during the day and reduce them in the evening. So usually my general rule of thumb is after 3 o'clock, no carbs. We want to get our carbs in earlier in the day. Now, there are some differences here, and I am definitely one of those women that need carbs later in the day so I can sleep better at night. And so this is just a trial and error for you. Some people need a little bit of carb at dinner in order to rest well. And so we all, again, are genetically made differently. We've had different experiences in life. And so if you're one of those people, but if you do not need carbs to sleep, right? If you don't need that, keep them before 3 o'clock. It's going to be a whole lot more beneficial for you. So, all right. The next thing is to add apple cider vinegar. We're going to do 1 tablespoon in water before meals, and this will improve your insulin sensitivity. So try that. If you are if you've been eating healthy and it's just something's not right? It's just not working for you. Now I want you to try aiming for 25 to 30 grams of total fiber per day to improve the insulin response. And then try resistance training. So with heavier weights, let's try that. Focus on compound movements like squats, deadlifts, and rows. Rows are another good one. I want you to do that like 2 or 3 times weekly. Okay. We're going to see what kind of changes we see with that. I want you to implement a 12-hour fast. So, for example, you're going to finish eating dinner by 7 p.m. and then we're not going to eat breakfast until after 7 a.m. Okay. So at least 12 hours, we're going to try fasting. And then I want you to track your waist measurement. So this is way more meaningful than the scale. And again, we've already talked about that, right? But for you in particular, for this type of person who's eating healthy and they just cannot get some movement in their weight, I want you definitely to track your waist measurements, okay? All right. Now, what if you are one that are dealing with intense cravings and emotional eating? Like, it's insane, right? Look at this lady. She's got a whole plate of cupcakes and donuts. If this is you, here's your plan. You are going to balance blood sugar proactively, okay? We are never going to go longer than 4 hours without eating protein and fiber, and you need to eat those together. Okay, if you are this type of person, you need to eat the protein and fiber together, and you need to do that every 4 hours. Or no, don't go any longer than 4 hours. And we're talking during the day. You don't need to do this all night, but during the day, we're going to try and keep that. And then just, if it's only snack time and say it's not dinner time yet, just have a little protein and fiber. Okay. And we are going to increase your fat and protein at breakfast. So whatever you were doing before, we're going to increase it. Okay. And this sets, it just sets things for the day. So you're not so hungry, and it just balances those hormones. And usually it works for the entire day. If you're this type of person, usually this works very well for the entire day. We are going to keep emergency snacks, emergency protein snacks, I should say, everywhere. We're going to keep them in your car, in your desk, in your purse, at your bedside, like wherever you need them. We are going to keep protein snacks. Okay. And then we're going to use a 5-minute pause technique. So what this means is when this craving hits, like you all of a sudden you feel like you need a donut, like, or you need some chocolate or something, like you've got this craving that just hits you. I want you to set a timer. Grab your phone, grab your watch, whatever, set a timer, and I want you to practice some deep breathing. Take some good deep breaths, calm yourself, and do that before deciding that you're going to indulge, or you're going to actually still want. Just see, do I still want that food? Because 9 times out of 10, you're probably not. It was just a moment, right? And if we can get ourselves past that moment, we can really make some changes. And some, if you need some supplementing, if you're kind of thinking about some supplements, you might try supplementing with L-glutamine. And so 500 to 1,000 milligrams, somewhere around in there between meals. And this may actually help reduce sugar cravings. We've definitely seen some good studies on that. And I know I've had people try it and it works pretty well. And so that might be a good idea. Start a triggers and transitions journal. And so we've already kind of touched on journaling. Huge. I'm a big fan of that. I think every woman needs to be writing these things down, because memory's not as crazy as it used to be sometimes, right? So definitely consider that. Writing down, noting what situations or emotional states trigger cravings. And so that's valuable information, and something that it's going to be very helpful for you. All right, the last thing you in particular are going to do is you are going to create alternative comfort rituals. So what that means is we are going to develop non-food activities. So whenever you have those really challenging emotional stressors, or you get an emotional state, I want you to have an action plan already where you can choose something alternative that's not food related to help kind of get through that time. Okay. So a lot of times with people in this category, they will reach for a cookie or something to raise that feel good level. Right. And so we're looking for that relief, that high kind of, right? And so we want to look for non-food activities. So some people it is taking a walk. Some people it's playing with the dog. I don't know what that is for you. Think about those things and come up with that. Okay. Now, if you were the type of person and you are experiencing severe bloating and digestive issues, raise your hand if you've got this one. Okay. We've got a plan for you. We are going to implement a 2-week elimination of triggers. Okay. So think about your triggers. So we're going to be eliminating dairy, gluten, soy, all artificial sweeteners. And then if you are using artificial sweeteners, we are going to reintroduce those one at a time. And we are going to see exactly which one. And I might add corn on there too. I forgot about corn. So dairy, gluten, soy, corn, and artificial sweeteners. Because typically one of those 5 is causing the digestive issues. Now, there may be some other things going on, but they are definitely a trigger for you. And we're going to figure out which ones they are. Okay. So something else you can do, and I would highly recommend, is doing a digestive enzyme. So take one that's got the full spectrum. Usually they're in capsules, but there's lots of different options out there. So if you need some good suggestions, let me know. I'm happy to help you with those. I want you to add fermented foods in gradually, very slow, right? But I do want you to start adding some more fermented foods in. We're going to start with just 1 tablespoon daily and then just slowly increase. And so, um, you know, any kind of fermented food will work. So, whether it's raw organic sauerkraut, that's probably my favorite one I recommend. And then we're going to hydrate, and we're going to hydrate between rather than during meals. So this just helps improve digestive efficiency because our digestive tract needs fluid. And so a lot of times we're just drinking during our meals, and which isn't great, but a lot of us do it. And so I want you to be purposeful to hydrate yourself outside of that. And then we are going to try a low food map approach. Now, there's definitely some varying opinions on this, but just Google low food map and you can kind of get a general idea of what it is. But this can be particularly helpful if your bloating correlates with specific foods. And so this just helps you figure out what those foods are. And so again, kind of like the elimination triggers that we were doing with those specific 5 foods, right? We're actually going to do with several food groups, and we're going to see exactly what is the trigger. And so once we know what it is, then we know how to fix it. And so practice thorough chewing. A lot of times people in this category, they're eating way too fast. And we do that, especially as moms. Like we're trying to hurry before we get to the next thing, right? And so we just need to aim for about 20 to 30 chews per bite, which sounds crazy, right? But this will greatly improve your digestion. Whoops, not yet. Okay, one more. And then we are going to, lost my screen. Okay, so then we are going to consider testing for SIBO, SIBO. What does that stand for? It stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And so that becomes way more common during perimenopause and on into menopause. And so, just consider testing for that, especially if you've done all the other action plan that I've suggested here and you're still having issues, then it's definitely time to test for that. And then we're going to implement gentle abdominal massage. And so we actually want to be very careful when you're doing this and make sure that you're going in a clockwise motion. So you don't want to go counterclockwise because that can cause digestive disruption because you're going the wrong way. We want to go clockwise. So think about your face and a clock, and we want to go, we're probably going to be backwards on the screen here, but use clockwise motion. And you're going to do this like 5 minutes before bed. You can put some lotion on if you want, or some oil, whatever works for you, but it can definitely help get that digestive tract moving better. Okay. All right. Now, what do you do if you have tried everything? Nothing works, no changes, like you're just frustrated, like nothing is helping. Okay. Is that you? If it's you, put you in the comments because I definitely want to talk to you. All right. Here's what you are going to do. Here is your plan. You are going to consider testing. Okay. Definitely the test that we talked about back on a few slides, right? The comprehensive hormone panels, definitely get a biofeedback scan, definitely get your HTMA testing. These all can reveal hidden obstacles. Because if you're doing all the right things and you're still having issues, then there's something underlying and we need to address that. So definitely get a hold of me. We will get that figured out for you. Now, I want you to implement a structured elimination diet. And so what I mean by that is it's an elimination diet, right? And it's properly designed that so it can identify those triggers and that are specific to your body. And so it can be something wild that isn't a trigger for most people, but it is for you. And so we'll work together on that and come up with a solution for you. The next thing we're going to do is focus on exclusively on stress reduction. And we're going to do that for about 30 days because it's going to take some time. If you are definitely one of those stress people or you just have a lot of stress in your life, it's going to take some time to heal this. And so sometimes just addressing the nervous system first just unblocks the other areas of resistance. And so we can have some pretty major changes really quickly when we just address the stress factor. Okay. And then we're going to try, I definitely recommend that you try working with a perimenopause health coach, like myself or someone else, because they can give you some specialized guidance and help you navigate through these complex hormonal transitions. And so it's just something to think about. Okay. And I just highly recommend it. I can't tell you and strongly enough that you can change everything by just having that correct information and accountability, because a lot of times we have a lot of misinformation and it's actually causing more harm than good. And so, all right, the next thing is to consider oral peptides. Um, Definitely is kind of a newer thought process, another newer option that's out there. And I'm not talking about the injectables. We want to stay away from those. Those are synthetic. This would be your more natural oral peptides. So it can really help with some of those stubborn metabolic issues. And so just consider it and reach out to me if you'd like to, know more about those or learn how they can best help you. The next thing is to reset your exercise approach completely. Like we need to revamp what you're doing. So let's sit down, let's talk about that. Let's see if what you've been doing is too high intensity or if you just need to try slowly strength training and walking maybe for 30 days or vice versa. Like whatever you've been doing, let's look at some alternatives. Okay. The next thing is to explore intermittent fasting. So I actually want you to implement at least a 12-hour overnight fast. And I want you to do this pretty much every day. Okay. And so what that means is, for example, like we talked about earlier, you're going to quit eating by 7. So finish your dinner by 7, and then you're not going to eat again until after 7 a.m. And so that can really help break through some plateaus that you've been experiencing. It can definitely help balance things again. Yeah, all the fun things. All right. And then we're going to implement a structured physical and digital detox. So these are a couple of different ways that we can detox. So reducing EMF exposure and screen time. So that can definitely impact hormonal balance and your sleep quality. And so we are wanting better sleep, we're wanting more sleep, right? And so ultimately, so we can have that hormone balance. And so your digital detox is going to be great for that. Um, the um, the physical detox is going to be just getting the toxins out of your system. So these can be environmental toxins. They can be just toxins from, say, vaccines or whatever, however we're getting toxins in our body. It's just a way to get rid of those and to help our body eliminate those. So we get them a lot from food and things like that too. So, all right. So now are you totally overwhelmed? Does this all seem really overwhelming to you? I want you to take a deep breath because I would like to offer you a simple, step-by-step, easy to follow solution, and it's only 7 days long. And this will help just kickstart what your goals are. Okay. And so, no matter where you are at in your journey, no matter which one of those people you were, this will work for you. Okay. So, if you could finally see results that, you know, you can actually feel, right? You can actually feel the difference. And this can happen with the right tools and guidance. And so, if that sounds heavenly to you, if that sounds like something you are ready for, put yes in the comments. And I have something special just for you. Even if you're watching the replay, put it in the comments because I have something special for you at the end. And we'll more on that in just a moment. Okay. All right. So, I want you to embrace your wise woman years. Okay. We are not going to dread it. Because remember, perimenopause on into menopause is not just an ending. It is not just an ending, it is also a beginning, and it is your second act. This can be one of the best seasons in your life if you are open to that and willing to let me help you get there. Okay. Throughout history and across cultures, postmenopausal women have been respected as wisdom keepers and leaders. Okay. And your body is changing. Yes, it totally is. But it does not mean that you can't thrive. Okay. And but your wisdom, perspective, your potential contributions to the world, those are just amazing what we can offer, right? And so don't ever feel bad or think life's over because it is really just beginning. This can be the best years of your life. So, this news chapter can be the most vibrant and fulfilling of your life. And your body, it's changing. It isn't a limitation. It is it's just simply asking for a new kind of care, right? And one that honors your wisdom. And you've accumulated all of this knowledge, and you are the woman you're becoming, and it is amazing. And so I just want you to trust that your body knows what it's doing. Um, it just needs a little help, right? But with the right support and understanding and patience, right, you can have and navigate this transition with grace and emerge stronger than ever before. And I know you've got this, and I am here cheering you on. So let's kick all of this to the curb. We are not going to be wasting money and wasting time and dealing with side effects and eating the same salad every day. Like, there is better ways. So we know what doesn't work. We know we're wasting time and money. So let's do it a simple, easy way. And I have something special for you. So if you are ready for a simple, easy way, you can do this because anybody can do anything for 7 days, right? And if it worked, how amazing would that be? And so I am starting a 7 day. We're going to do 7 days of the exact things that we talked about today. I'm going to guide you through that. I'm going to help you every step of the way. You will know every day what you're doing. You will have accountability. You will have community. It is going to be amazing. Now, it's only $97, or I have two easy payments that you can make at $58.50. Absolutely, I want to make this affordable for everybody. It starts on May 7th and runs for 7 days. Now, I am so confident that you are going to feel better after the 7 days, and you are going to notice a shift and notice a change. That I even offer back 100% money back guarantee at the 7th day. If you were like, didn't feel a thing, this didn't work for me, um, I feel worse than I did, like, I don't know, whatever that is for you, I will give you your money back. Okay. So that's how positive I am that you are going to feel amazing, and you are going to make a shift, and you're going to feel better and start. This is just a kickoff, right? This is just showing you what is possible and then helping you figure out how to continue and how to go on past that 7 days. Okay. So what do you get for all of this, right? So what do we get for this 7 days? So you get a complete 7 day meal plan, and that comes with a shopping list and prepping tips. And so I give you everything you need. You have a recipe bundle filled with easy, delicious, hormone-friendly meals that you can choose from. You'll have multiples that you can choose from. So you'll find something that you like. And if not, let me know and we will find you something. There's a simple rules breakdown just to help keep you on track, a beautifully designed workbook to guide your progress, going to help you every step of the way. A daily coaching we are going to have inside our community, coaching and motivation, and just community. Okay, you're just going to love it. The 24/7 access to the community and access to your dashboard, which is going to have all of your recipes and things like that in there. You have 24-hour access to that. Um, there's just so much to be said for communication and accountability. And so you can share your struggles, celebrate your wins, and just be in community with other women just like you. We're all on the same path, right? And you also have a private chat access for questions that maybe you want to ask outside of the community and you just want to direct them just towards me. You have this private chat button you can hit and send me a message and we can have a chat about it, okay? We will have a kickoff Zoom. It'll be a group call that we're going to do, and it's just to get everything in place for the week, answer any questions that you have, give you some tips and guidance, and so it's a little more individualized for you because you're going to probably fall into one of these groups, right? And so at the end of the 7 days, we're going to have another group coaching call where we're all going to get together. We can discuss, our week, how it went. We can discuss tips and habits to keep the momentum going, to move forward, just all of these things. Plus, there's a couple of bonuses included. And so a visualizing success guide, it is a mindset tool to keep just to help you create the healthiest version of yourself. And so that starts by our thought process. And so this is a great tool to have, and it's going to be a guide you get free with this. And then also, I am offering during this session, the 7 week session, I am offering a 15-minute follow-up call. So the week after we finish, you get a private call with me that we will discuss your specific goals and your next steps. Like, how do you keep the success going for you in particular? We will talk about those things and we will help you get where you want to be. So if you are ready to kickstart your weight loss and get rid of this belly fat and know that you don't have to do all this on your own, click the link to register. I'm going to put it in the comments for you. Remember, it's 100% money back guarantee. So if this is not for you, you are not, you don't have to walk in fear. I want this to be completely open for you. You can choose to invest in yourself without fear because this is important to me. Okay. I just want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being patient while we went through some of our technical difficulties. But that is a wrap. And I just want to know, was this helpful for you? If it was, let me know in the comments because I will continue to do these trainings for you if it's helpful. If you have questions, if you have something that come up that you really would love to ask me, send me a message. You can send me a message on any of my social media. You can email me at info@dropsofhealthwellnesscenter.com. You can text me if you would like. My phone number is on my website. I just want to thank you for joining me today. And I just hope that I will get a chance to meet you and get to know your story and see how I can best support you. So stay in touch.